Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we make sense of corporate filings, reports, and all that fun stuff. Today, we're diving into Harmony Biosciences' latest 10K, their annual report. Get ready because this report has more plot twists than your favorite TV show, especially concerning regulatory hurdles. It's almost like they are juggling chainsaws while riding a unicycle. Let's set the stage. Harmony Biosciences, they are all about tackling neurological diseases, particularly those rare ones. They've got one approved product right now called Wakix, a treatment for excessive daytime sleepiness and cataplexy in adults with narcolepsy, plus, it was recently approved for kids. Basically, it helps people stay awake who have a really hard time doing so. Now, before we get too deep, it's worth mentioning that Harmony depends heavily on Wakix for their revenue. It's the golden goose, and if that goose stops laying eggs, things could get tricky. This and other risks are outlined in the report, things like market competition, drug acceptance, and maintaining their key licensing agreements. So what exactly does Harmony do? Well, they are trying to grow beyond just Wakix. Think of it as diversifying their investment portfolio, but with drugs instead of stocks. They're working on new uses for pitolisant, the active ingredient in Wakix, and trying to bring in new products for things like Fragile X syndrome and rare epilepsies. Harmony's development pipeline is critical for its future. It's their long-term growth plan. They are trying to find new indications, that's medical speak for new uses, for pitolisant. Currently, they are looking at idiopathic hypersomnia, Prader-Willi syndrome, and myotonic dystrophy. And then there are next-generation formulations of pitolisant. They are also expanding into orexin science through a sub-license agreement with Bioproject, which is a fancy way of saying they are exploring new avenues of how to treat sleep disorders by targeting orexin receptors in the brain. And through the acquisition of Zynerba, they are trying to get ZYN002 approved for Fragile X syndrome. They are also exploring the possibility of this drug being effective in 22q deletion syndrome. Through the acquisition of Epigenics, they are in phase 3 trials with EPX-100 for the treatment of Dravet syndrome and Lennox-Gastaut syndrome. Of course, Harmony isn't the only player in this field. They face stiff competition from established drugs and major pharmaceutical companies. Wakix has to compete with products like Xyrem, Provigil, and Sanofi. The report makes the case that Wakix has some advantages, especially that it is not a controlled substance. Here's a biggie: Harmony depends on single suppliers for the active ingredients in their drugs. It is a risk because if something happens to that supplier, Harmony could be in trouble. Think of it like relying on one farm for all your produce. If there's a drought, you are in trouble. Another area of concentration is that the revenue for the year ended December 31, 2024 was heavily dependent on just 3 main specialty distributors. So if any of those relationships go south, it could be a problem. A significant portion of Harmony's eggs are in Bioproject's basket, the company they license pitolisant from. This relationship is governed by multiple licensing agreements, and it lays out the details of what each company is responsible for, plus royalties, territories, and IP. If any of the many aspects of the license agreements are not followed by either party, it would create big problems down the line. Okay, now for some regulatory alphabet soup. Developing and getting a drug approved by the FDA is like running an obstacle course blindfolded. It's costly, time-consuming, and unpredictable. Harmony has to jump through hoops like preclinical studies, clinical trials, and manufacturing inspections. If they stumble at any point, it could delay or derail their plans. The FDA offers programs to speed up drug development like fast track and breakthrough therapy designations. But even with these, there's no guarantee of approval. It is like getting a fast pass at an amusement park. You still have to wait in line, just a shorter one. Even after a drug is approved, the FDA keeps a close eye on it. If any safety issues pop up, there could be big problems, including product recalls or even the drug being pulled off the market. The DEA, that's the Drug Enforcement Administration, also plays a role if a drug is classified as a controlled substance. This adds another layer of regulation and can limit how the drug is manufactured, distributed, and prescribed. Healthcare regulations are a minefield of potential legal issues. There are anti-kickback laws, false claims acts, and data privacy regulations. If Harmony runs afoul of any of these, it could face hefty fines and penalties. Data privacy is another big deal, especially with regulations like HIPAA, GDPR, and the California Consumer Privacy Act. Companies have to be extra careful about how they collect, use, and protect patient data. The fines for getting it wrong can be astronomical. A drug can be the best thing since sliced bread, but if insurance companies don't cover it, nobody can afford it. So, Harmony needs to convince insurance companies and government programs to pay for WACX and any future products. If they can't get good coverage and reimbursement rates, sales will suffer. Healthcare reform is a constant process with the ACA, the Inflation Reduction Act, and potential changes to government healthcare. It can change how much the government pays for healthcare. It can all affect Harmony's business and make things difficult to estimate. Intellectual property is Harmony's protective shield. They rely on patents, trade secrets, and trademarks to keep competitors at bay, but these protections aren't foolproof. There are always legal challenges or loopholes that could weaken their defenses. Here are some financials. Key points of the financial statements from the report include the need to make continuing milestone payments to BioProject, the challenges and limitations of using previous operating loss carryforwards, and that they may see adverse effect because of tax law changes. All of this could impact profitability. Let's look at some numbers. Cash equivalents were $453 million and outstanding debt was $181 million. The TLA credit agreement contains a number of restrictions to operations that can limit the company's ability to make changes to direction at a moment's notice. If they default on these loans, that would be catastrophic. Losing key executives or failing to attract qualified personnel is a significant risk. Their talent is crucial for developing new treatments and running the business. The COVID-19 pandemic showed how quickly things can change. Future pandemics or similar events could disrupt supply chains, clinical trials, and commercial operations, which would materially damage Harmony's bottom line. Failing to meet ESG expectations could damage Harmony's reputation. The regulatory approval process with the FDA is inherently tricky and unpredictable, meaning that even promising new treatments may never get approved. If Harmony fails to get insurance companies to reimburse for the drug costs, or if patients decide that their insurance payments are too high, sales could decline, causing further disruption. Lastly, if future trials go south, there could be serious product liability claims that exceed what the company is insured to cover. In addition to what we've already mentioned, if product candidates get labeled as a controlled substance, this could cause regulatory hurdles that result in big problems in the long run. With healthcare being regulated by so many agencies and compliance changing, it can be a daunting challenge to stay on top of it all. Governmental scrutiny over the manner in which manufacturers set prices for their marketed products is something else to keep in mind. So what's the verdict on Harmony Biosciences? Well, they are in a tough but important industry. They are trying to grow beyond their main product, which is smart but comes with risks. The need to rely on a couple of key suppliers means that any hiccup in the supply chain could spell disaster. And also, the web of healthcare regulations can be a major headache, so it is something they need to always be careful about. While the company did report a rise in net product revenue, it was also offset by a rise in cost of product sales. And while they're trying to get more drugs approved, all of the future challenges related to achieving FDA approvals makes it hard to estimate true value of the company today. Overall, it seems like Harmony is definitely a company trying to expand into new markets. They seem well positioned to do well, but I'm not an investment advisor, so always do your own research and be sure to check with your financial advisor. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe, like, and comment.